Hey class, this is my book report. It was on a book titled Robotics: Discover the Science and Technology of the Future with 20 Projects. The author of this book is a lady by the name of Kathy Cesare. I believe that's how you pronounce her last name. The theme of this book, what I got from it was to educate people on the benefits of building robots and their impact on society or in society. Here's a picture right here of Kathy. Yep. So we move on. Kathy Sestry, the author of the book, published Robotics: Discover the Science and Technology of the Future with 20 projects in 2012. The title is a mouthful, it's a lot to say. Uh, the author provided many different examples of how to make robots and how interesting the whole idea of robotics can be. The next comment, like I came in with a preconceived notion before I started reading this book. The title, it seemed pretty boring. So I thought going in it was going to be a boring read. But this preconceived notion proved to be wrong. Once I actually started reading this book, it was hard to put down. I thought it was super interesting because of the main goal. It was to help students, parents, and teachers learn how easy it can be to build robots. That was my interpretation of it. Uh, I think the bigger picture of it is how building like robots can be like it becomes a pastime of sorts. It's like a hobby people have, and it involves a lot of collaboration, which I thought was really cool, and we can bring that into a classroom setting. The author helped change my attitude toward building robots. Originally, I thought that building robots was only for the so-called geniuses of the world, you know. But Cesare provided many helpful strategies to help quote unquote ordinary people like myself learn how to use technology and robots to my advantage in a classroom setting. There's a little picture of a girl and a robot. So, next slide. My view on the book. Cesare did a fantastic job of helping me realize the importance of robots in society today. A few decades ago, we didn't really have access to these high-tech robots that look like humans, that act like humans, uh, because technology wasn't as advanced. But with advances in technology over the past couple of decades, like we have been able to see more high-tech, lifelike robots than we did before 10, 15, 20 years ago. After reading through this book, it was actually hard for me to view my life without robotics and robots. When you think nowadays, they're everywhere we go. They kind of shape the society we live in. I feel like if we were to take robots and high tech technology out of our lives right now, like we wouldn't know what to do without it. So it'd definitely be a transition. Summary of the book. Kathy Cesare starts off her book with a timeline of robotics over the course of over 2,000 years, actually. That was fascinating to me because I thought robotics and robots and the whole idea of robots came about, a few decades ago. But she says it started back over 2,000 years ago, which was very intriguing to me. Throughout the book, she actually offers different ways in which to build robots from material like that is commonly found around the house or the store, and like this also helped me realize that like anyone could build like a robot. You know, you don't have to have like the highest tech technology or like the most fancy material. You literally find something around your house and probably other things and put them together and form a robot, which is cool. Um, she moves on from the history of robots to how they operate and how they do certain tasks. The last two chapters of the book are very intriguing and were actually my favorite because she gets into the process of how robots think and what the future looks like for robots, which is kind of scary to think about because looking back 20 years ago, like robots were like nothing, but like now 20 years later, like we have robots that do almost everything. So imagine 20 years from now what they'll be doing. It's definitely going to be exciting and exciting to see. So Cesare was able to use this book to help readers become more educated on the concept of robots and how they impact the world. My analysis, I think chapter 1 expresses a crucial point that the author is trying to make in the book, and that is how robots can be used for a wide variety of jobs. Um, Reading through this book, it made me more aware of how prevalent robots are in everyday life. I kind of never really noticed them around. Like, obviously, like I'd see robots or like technology that would move around my house, like the vacuum cleaner, the iRobot, whatever it's called, that cleans up dust bunnies. But like I never noticed how like prevalent they are. And according to chapter 1, robots can be used in the home, in space, in medicine, in industry. So they're everywhere. One example stated in the book for robots in medicine is the cochlear implant. And I'm pretty sure almost everyone knows what it is. It helps deaf people detect sound. And this got me to thinking that robots actually help make life more meaningful in this sense because uh, I take a lot of things for granted, but people who are deaf, like, uh, it's just hard. Like, a lot of us will take our eyesight, our hearing for granted, you know. But when it's like taken from us, like it's tough. But like these cochlear implants, these robots, they help us like hear again. So it's definitely something that is very meaningful. So robots definitely help in that sense. I definitely have become more aware of the presence of robots in my life after reading this book. My analysis continued. The last chapter of the book really details artificial intelligence, which I find it to be super fascinating. Artificial intelligence can be of tremendous help in the classroom setting, in my opinion, because it gives students a new way of learning the material. Instead of having them listen to me lecture the whole time or 20 minutes at a time, we could switch things up uh, by like allowing them to use their phones to look certain things up. Like I mentioned, instead of having to scavenger through their textbooks all the time, we could have students use their phones to help them learn the material. According to chapter 7 of the book, scientists are creating robots that can learn. Uh, I noticed that the book also uses the mobile phone app Siri as an example of this. The more students use Siri to look up any information, whether it's academic or just random stuff, the more Siri gathers for them just by speaking to their phone. So if a student constantly is looking up historical facts, Siri is just automatically gonna think that they're looking for that, and they're gonna Siri's gonna suggest that for them, which is really cool. With constant change in technology over the past couple of decades, I think it's super important for teachers to use this kind of technology to help facilitate student learning. It can't just be them listening to you talk. I feel like using technology, using Siri, using these robots is definitely crucial to help facilitate student learning. Um, Lastly, the EDUC 407 classes helped me look for ways to teach my future students in a way that is meaningful, in a way that encourages collaboration. Robotics, discovering the science and technology of the future with 20 projects has inspired me to incorporate some of the designs I learned from this book into my future classroom. Uh, Building and designing these robots requires students to be creative and use their creativity, and it allows them to work with their peers to complete assignments. And I plan on implementing robotics into my classroom by staying up to date with current technological changes. By doing so, I will be able to accommodate my students in a way that helps them learn the material in multiple fashions, not just me lecturing. Uh, they actually get to use technology, robots, to help them learn. I found this picture on the internet. I thought it was pretty cool. It's like a FaceTime, like robot type thing with a picture or video of a teacher, and she's like lecturing to these students, which I thought is fascinating, and I think the students will get a kick out of it. So I feel like their attention will be definitely there. And lastly, in conclusion, this book was super interesting to read, and I'm glad I gave it a chance. Going in, I thought the book was going to be super boring because it involved robots, but I was pleasantly surprised that it actually was a great read. It turns out that robots have a tremendous impact on our lives, and they're almost everywhere nowadays. So it's going to be almost impossible to uh, set up your classroom that doesn't involve some kind of technological advancement in robotics or robot and whatnot. So one of Cecily's strengths, in my opinion, was her ability to explain how robots or how to build robots for beginners. She also listed several practical applications for robots and artificial intelligence in the classroom environment, which I thought I could bring to my future classroom. One negative that I thought of the book was I thought the material was kind of jammed into like a small book. I felt that there was a lot going on. It was kind of hard to follow. But overall, this book was super interesting and super insightful, and I'm glad I read it. So, yeah, that concludes my book report. Thank you for listening.